Welcome back to Buckets WNBA edition. I am your host, Jim Turvey. We've got another preseason podcast for you. We are approaching the WNBA season, fast approaching, but we're still in the preseason. We don't have any game lines or anything. We have some preseason type game lines. Maybe we can touch on that real briefly, but I am here for another kind of zoomed out big picture podcast. We'll be back with Dano next week, but for now, what we're going to do, we're going to be rotating guests into this second slot. We're going to be going Dano guest, Dano guest, Dano guest. I'm hoping to bring on a lot of fun guests. Had to lead off with this guy. Probably a surprise to no one if you follow me or if you have followed the work that I was doing over at Bet She Wins. Bringing in my betting brother, Calvin Wetzel. Calvin, buddy, how's it going?
Man, I'm doing so well right now. We just watched an electric Knicks win, and now we get to turn the page to the women's side. And by the time this is released, I believe on Friday, we're gonna have our first preseason game on Friday night for the WNBA. So it's here, it's May, and I'm so psyched for it.
Yeah, we have that. We have it is the Chicago Sky playing the Brazilian national team. Brazilian national team without Camila Cardoso. We believe she's going to be on the Sky side of that, even though she could be on the Brazil side of that. I know you released over at Bet She Wins. You and Danny cooked up a little Sky side in that minus 21.5. Who knows, that number is probably obliterated by now. But do you like the Sky on that preseason matchup? Just because we don't know much about that Brazilian team, and the Sky's going to be running their full unit.
Yeah, I do. It's taking place in Baton Rouge, so there's gonna be a lot of LSU fans there to watch Angel, which is gonna make it feel a little bit like a home atmosphere for the Sky. And like you said, Brazil is not gonna have Camila Cardoso, who should be playing for the Sky. They're not gonna have Damiris Duntis, who's one of their other best players. She's on the fever right now. So this Brazilian team isn't one of like the top national teams anyway. And then you take off some of their top talent, and they really, even in a preseason game where the Sky might be kind of messing around with lineups, things like that, they're still just going to be too talented for this team for it to be even remotely close. And especially, you got to think Angel's going to get a little bit of extra run compared to what a starter would in a normal preseason game. So I do like the Sky to kind of run away with this one.
Well, we saw that in the past editions of this. It's a relatively new thing, but the WNBA teams have gotten pretty good results there. So, all right, we just went into the weeds on a preseason game. Let's zoom back out for a second. Let's go. The point of these is to kind of get you some preseason, bets for sure, but also, teaching the fish. You're kind of talking about, big picture 2025 WNBA season, getting some other thoughts. Dano and I kicked around some, of our high level thoughts on the season, the first podcast of the year. But I want to know what you're looking at this season, betting size. What are you excited for from, just a W perspective? Glad to have it back in our lives. And then, maybe zoom in a little bit in the second half and take it to, kind of betting things that you're looking for in 2025 specifically.
Yeah, I'm just excited for new. I love new in general, and I think that's going to be a theme. There's going to be a lot of new in 2025. You have some new coaches. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. You have a new team, an expansion team for the first time in the betting era, if you want to call it that, and certainly the first time in our fandoms, you and I. It's been over a decade. And continuing to get some new markets. Every year, it seems like the WNBA, as it explodes in popularity, continues to get new markets, new types of, we didn't even have props 3 years ago. And now look at all the stuff we're getting. For the first time this year, we have a full awards slate. We've only ever gotten MVP and Rookie of the Year odds. Now we have it all. We got Most Improved Defensive Player of the Year, all of that stuff, which I know you and Dano are going to get into. But just lots of new stuff going on, and I'm really excited for it.
And new is great for bettors because we always talk about this. You and I joke that we almost just should just cycle, like, bet a sport for its first 2 months and then move over to the other sport that's in its first 2 months, because new is when you can have the information edge. New is when it's trickier for everyone to solve things. So the people who are truly in the weeds are going to have the edges. So new is great. So I think that the coaches looking, keep an eye on preseason pace for new coaches. Keep an eye on rotations for these coaches. There could be new coaches in places that, like certain players a lot more than the previous coach, or the inverse. Those are great for preseason, reads. You don't want to overreact to it, but, if you're seeing comments that kind of align with, oh, this coach, Smesko in Atlanta, oh, he's really like a pace three and pace and threes kind of guy. This player who maybe doesn't fit that scheme that well, they kind of been a little bit on the outs in the preseason. Suddenly you're like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I'll be looking at some unders, on those early games. So definitely new is good for us. I know you've already given out a lot of futures over at the Bet She Wins Discord. Are there any that haven't been obliterated? You still like a little bit of value on them? We'll get into some more actionable bets here. We've got a fun little idea coming up later. But is there anything outside of the realm of what we're going to be doing in this episode that you want to give a shout to?
Yeah, honestly, there's one that has gotten obliterated and somehow is also still playable. I think both, just
That's
because
the
of that.
beauty of WNBA futures betting sometimes.
Yeah, right. It's Ryan Howard to lead the league in threes on the season. We got that over. I bet she wins in the plus 5,000s, plus 5,000 to plus 5,500 range. I'm seeing it in the plus 1,000s now, plus 1,500, plus 1,200, that type of range. I still like it there. I still think it's still good. It's dropped significantly, but you talked about Carl Smesko. I mean, a lot of these new coaches, which is going to be a theme, are new to the league and have not even been head coaches before. So we really have no idea. At least with Carl Smesko, we do have an idea of the type of coach he is from the college ranks at FGCU. Like you said, Maury ball, lots of threes, lots of layups. They would take like 0.7 mid-range jumpers per game. Like the rates were ridiculous. And when you look at Tanisha Wright and how she coached the Atlanta Dream, they were near the top in mid-range jumpers in any way you want to measure it. And obviously Ryan Howard has a smooth midi, and she was taking a lot of those. But if she's going to step back on those now and turn some of them into threes, if you do the math, even if she only turns half of those mid-range jumpers into threes, shoots the same percentage, now all of a sudden her average, which was 2.7 last year and has climbed every year of her career through the first 3 years, is going to be over 3, which is going to put you in that top tier with the players like Sabrina, Kelsey Plum, Caitlin Clark. Those are 3 to 3.5. That's that range where you're going to be. And those players are all in like the plus 500. Caitlin Clark's lower than that, but they're all kind of in that 3-digit range. And Ryan Howard, I think, is going to be right there in that top tier. Not to mention, system aside, she's in her 4th year. She's an all-star caliber player. That's a key year for improvement for players like that. I think she would take a jump even if she didn't have a new coach and a new system. And then you throw that in. I think she's primed for a little bit of a breakout here. Not that she hasn't already kind of broken out, but in terms of threes specifically.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are going to talk about awards next week. I'm really bummed that they don't have her listed for most improved player. So you guys won't be able to talk about odds for that, because if they did, that would be someone that I would be looking at.
Yeah, this is the epitome of an off-season read that's like just getting ahead of something that is going to be abundantly clear once the game starts. Like, he is going to implement that scheme, and she is going to be chucking threes with the Caitlin's level of the league. So I absolutely love this one as well. And it actually leads in perfectly to we're going to do 2 things here on the podcast, kind of from actionable bets here. We're going to do a little draft. I always love a draft. So we're going to draft player props. So these player props are available at DraftKings and Cal. Did you see they popped at one other book as well?
Yeah, MGM has these now as well.
So BetMGM and DraftKings, you can bet these season-long player props. So these are, Sabrina Ionescu over 4.8 assists for the full season. And basically you lock it in 6 months from now, like shorter for the WNBA season, 4 months from now. You see if the bet hit. These are really good for these big picture. If coaching scheme, we'll kind of talk through some of the reasons we like stuff, but you'll see it's the stuff where it's the unknowns in that first couple months. The market's going to figure it out eventually. The player prop angles will dry up, but if you can lock in that amount, that refinance that home, get that mortgage rate where you want it, and then lock it in for the full season, you'll be in good shape. So we're going to draft. We're each going to take 3. Calvin and I definitely overlapped on a lot of these, so we had to do a little finagling, a little trading, a little negotiating. But we've each got 3 that we like here. And Calvin, I'm going to throw it to you. Your first one, you just keep talking about the person that you just talked about. It's Ryan season. Talk to me about Ryan points per game.
Yeah, well, as long as we're finding ways to bet on Ryan, since they won't let us bet on her to win the most improved player, let's also take her over 17.1 points per game. I don't need to repeat everything I just said. Just if you want to hear most of the analysis for this one, rewind 2 minutes, listen to it all again. But she has cleared this line in both of the last 2 seasons. So even again, if you don't factor in the improvement, the system, things like that, this still is a touch low, and then you start to factor in that stuff in the extra threes that I think she's going to get, and this is way too low. I could see her averaging 20 a game this season, And something that I should have mentioned in that last segment is that even if you just look at her in Tanisha's system last year, but post Olympic break, so that last month and a half or so of the season,
Yeah.
she skyrocketed in terms of 3-point attempts and in terms of scoring, in terms of everything. If you're in the Bet She Wins Discord, you probably cashed a lot of those Ryan Howard over 3-point attempts
Yep.
with us on Prize Picks. The one
The
place that
attempts.
has,
Oh, the attempts. So beautiful.
yes, the one place so far. I hope we get more, but the one place so far that has let us bet on attempts, and we started betting her over attempts, and she kept launching in September and late in the season, and she averaged over 3 threes a game over that stretch. Only Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell also did that over that stretch. So we've already seen it for like the last month or month and a half of her career. And now I think it's only going to take the next step. I think this line's way too low, and I love it. I think you could take it at anything in the 17s, to be honest. I think she's going to at least hit 18.
I doubt we'll see this, but what DraftKings and FanDuel will both do before the NBA season is they'll give us like the 20 plus escalators as well. That would be, if we get those, that's going to be a great look, because a lot of this is kind of like, if Smesco puts in like, if he's able to establish the system that he wants, it's the ceiling is going to be there. The ceiling plays on her are going to be really great. And Tanisha Wright, I think she caught a little more crap than she should have at times. But even if you like Tanisha Wright, she's not an offensive mastermind. Like that was a defensive kind of plotting. They played a really good defense, but the offense really struggled. And now you get a guy in who's got a proven track record at the college level, admittedly not at the W level, but it seems like it's going to translate well, and really translate well for Ryan in particular. I'm going to go with a very similar bet. I'm going with Kelsey Plum over 3.0 threes, and I like that one even more, but I also will play over 20.7 points per game. So this, in LA, we get another new coach. Lynn Roberts is basically just Carl Schmesko West. She's gets that more ball style. It's a lot of threes. It's fast pace. She did this at the college level for a while as well. Really proven winner there. Now she's coming to LA, and she's coming to LA with Kelsey Plum. This is obviously her first season in LA. She basically said, I want my own team. I want to be the number one. I want to be the Batman. I'm sick of being the Robin. And, good for her. I'm really curious to see what she can do in her first season as like the lead guard. And she's got a pretty fun team out there in LA. I think with Rakia and Hamby, it's not like teams are going to be able to put all the attention on Plum. She's still going to have really solid teammates around her. 3.0 threes and 20.7 points. She was at 2.9 threes per game last year. That was in a secondary role. Now you can say she's not going to have an Asia Wilson that's opening up the space for her. Yeah, I think the trade-off in a massive increase in usage. She was at 24.8 last year. I think she's going to be pushing like 30% this year. I know there's Hamby and there's Rakia, but I think that Plum is going to have the ball in her hands a lot this season. You're actually looking at an under for a teammate of hers as well, which I think kind of plays into this. Plum as a lead guard with the ball in her hands a lot, doing a lot of scoring, getting a lot of the attention, but being okay with it. I think she's definitely going to get up enough looks. And the question is, can she maintain that 3-point accuracy enough to clear that 3.0 threes? And I think she will be. If you bet the Ryan Howard threes leader with us earlier at like plus 5,000 or so, even if you bet it now, I don't mind pairing it with Kelsey Plum to lead the league in threes. I think she'd be taking a ton of threes in that lead role. She's kind of my favorite of the favorites there in that 3-point market. So, Calvin, I think we're staying on the Sparks for your next pick. Is that correct?
Yeah, like you said, this kind of ties in with Kelsey Plum having the ball in her hands a lot. The more she has the ball in her hands, the less everyone else does. So I'm going with Odyssey Sims under 5.2 assists per game on the Sparks. We also should talk about Julie Alamont a little bit, who just had meniscus surgery recently in LA. So she is in LA. Sounds like she is planning to play the season. And from what I've seen from Twitter sources that admittedly may or may not know what they're talking about, it sounds like it's a 4 to 6 week type of timetable. And that was like a week ago. So that would put her basically missing only like a few weeks in the season. And at that point, I do think that Odyssey Sims is better and will start. But when you have, Julie Alma is certainly more capable of a point guard than anyone else who was on the wings with Odyssey Sims last year. So I don't think Odyssey would have as many point guard responsibilities and minutes as she did on the wings. She averaged 5.3 on the wing, so she barely cleared it. And that was also a team that was constantly playing games in the 170s, as we remember. And then in addition to Julie, maybe being in like a 25-15 type of a timeshare there, like you said, Kelsey Plum, who won't be necessarily the technical point guard on paper or in the starting lineup. Probably she'll be more of the two, but for practical purposes, she's going to have the ball in her hands all the time and be relied upon to make plays and to create for herself and for others. So I just think 5.2 is a little bit high for Odyssey. I don't think it's nearly the level of play that the Ryan Howard plays are. So if you're talking about like unit sizing, definitely go a little bit smaller on that one. But I do think that a line in the low fives is a little bit too high for her.
Yeah, and I think if you're Lynn looking at this backcourt, I think Aleman makes Aleman. I'm not sure why I said that so weirdly, but I think she makes a lot more sense next to Kelsey Plum than Odyssey Sin. So I think that makes perfect sense. I'm totally with that one. For my next pick, I'm going to go with Brittany Griner under 6.8 rebounds. This is one that always throws people off. We'll go back to the well on this base every year. It's like, Brittany Griner, isn't she like, 7 feet tall? Isn't she like, but she doesn't rebound. She, for whatever reason, her entire career, she just hasn't really been a rebounder. She hasn't cleared this in either of the seasons since coming back from Russia. She was at 6.6 and 6.3. She's now 32. And she's head to a team that brought in another center. They had a weird offseason in Atlanta. They brought in Brittany Griner and Brianna Jones. Now, I think that they're going to be able to make it work by staggering them. They're both at points in their career where they can probably play around 24 minutes, where, there's 4 minutes of shared at the beginning. Then it's, they're kind of alternating throughout the game and 4 minutes at the end. But that's kind of the point. She's probably going to see a lower minutes load next to another center potentially at times in that lineup. They will be playing at like a decent pace, but Phoenix played at a really decent pace last year and it didn't matter. She went under this again. She really had, she is a big that really doesn't hit the glass. That's not really her thing. She's a stud on the defensive end. She gets a lot of blocks, but at times she's kind of out of position because she likes to get those blocks and then she's not by the rim for the actual rebound. So Brittany Griner under rebounds is often a play prop wise early in the season anyways. They usually tend to inflate her line probably based on, oh, this Brittany Griner, like, yeah, she's the starting center. She'll get a bunch of rebounds. It just doesn't really come through. So Brittany Griner rebounds, tried and true. We're going to go back to the well. You can get 6.8 right now out there. So I like that under for Griner.
Yeah, and on BG, before I go with my last one real quick, I do want to say you talked about her maybe being out of position on the defensive end. Well, I think of the offensive end too. When you look at the way the Atlanta Dream are constructed, and again, Carl Smesko, she might be a little bit out of position for offensive rebounds. Not that she's an elite offensive rebounder. Bree Jones is certainly more of that role for them. But last year we saw under Nate Tibbetts, who is another coach who likes to shoot threes, Brittany Griner started to take that step out. She shot 9 for 18, still limited sample, but 50% from three. Yeah. And more attempts than she had by far, over double of any year of her career. She's been great at free throws and great from the mid-range her whole career, so we know that she has that shooting touch. And that Carl Smesko is thinking between the fact that he loves taking threes in general and the fact that he has two elite centers that he has to find a way to play together. Yep.
And Brianna Jones,
I don't think Bree Jones is going to be the one stepping out.
Jinx. Yeah, she's
not
exactly.
Out. So if you get one of them to step out, it's going to be BG. And if BG steps out, I mean, she averaged 1.8 offensive rebounds per game last year. That could be 1.2, and that 0.6 could be the difference between averaging 6.8 or not.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're right on with it. Let's go to we can do one more here. Talk to me about your final prop here.
Yeah, so I love Jackie Young under 5.4 assists per game, and you could kind of go along with this one. Chelsea Gray over 5.0 assists per game, but I think Jackie is the better play of the two, so I'm kind of going with that one as the official look here. These are basically flipped. Like the only reason why these lines are the way they are is because last season Jackie played for a month plus as the point guard while Chelsea was hurt. And then when Chelsea worked her way back in, she was not fully herself for a while. She was kind of limited. Her overall numbers were a little bit down because of that. And so she didn't average as many assists as she usually would when she's fully healthy. And Jackie's assists, obviously, for the season were a little bit higher. Even last year, even with that factored in, Jackie still only averaged 5.3, still a little bit under this. Yeah. She wasn't anywhere close to this in any of the seasons prior to that. She wasn't even at 4 for the last several seasons. And anyone who followed Unrivaled probably knows that Chelsea Gray is looking like she's back. Knock on wood. Hopefully that's true. But she's looking fully healthy. She's looking fresh. I
And
think
Jackie looked a little dicey at times.
and she did. Yeah,
health-wise.
Jackie had that injury. Ever since the Olympics last year, Jackie was kind of struggling with something down the stretch of the season into the playoffs, and it's that injury since the Olympics kind of seemed to linger into Unrivaled. We'll see if it lingers into the season. Even if it doesn't, which I hope it doesn't. I love Jackie Young. I hope she's all good. I think this is a great play, even if she's fully healthy. But obviously, if that little nagging injury is lingering, that just makes this look even better. And again, Chelsea Gray over 5.0 can go with it, because I think Chelsea Gray is fully back to being herself and being the point guard on this team. Jackie Young is not the point guard on this team anymore. It is Chelsea Gray. So both of these lines are just completely inverted, in my opinion. There's absolutely no reason. I wish we got like spreads or money lines for these, like head to head, because like Chelsea Gray would be at plus money against Jackie Young, and it would be such an obvious smash that Chelsea is gonna win that matchup in terms of assists per game. But either way, you can play both of them, and if you're gonna go bigger or have to play one, definitely take Jackie under 5.4 assists.
Listen, you said this is the year of new markets. Hopefully, we are getting to the book's credit. We are getting new markets this year. Maybe this is like 2 or 3 years from now. We'll get those player head to head. I don't even know if we get those over in the MMNBA.
We do. We definitely do. In I even have seen them in a W a little bit in terms of single game. So maybe we'll get
keep an eye out that early games in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get like Chelsea Gray, like in game 1, plus money to have more assists than Jackie Young, just don't even think about it. It's automatic.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to go with our final one. I'm going to wrap us up here. DeWanna Bonner, under 15.1 points per game. So she went under this last year while playing 32 minutes as a key offensive piece on the Sun. Like, arguably, the best scorer on the Sun. She's now going to a Fever team that has Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Natasha Howard. Aaliyah Boston's maybe more of a defensive, and offensive secondary piece. But that's 3 players that really like to get a shot up on the Fever there. I'm going to be doing projections for Roto Grinders this year, and I was starting to dabble a little bit here and there today with spreading out usage. The Fever usage is going to be really, really interesting to see. And Bonner's a player who she can catch and shoot, and she can hit threes, and like Caitlin is going to create really good looks for her, absolutely. So she might not need the most usage to score, but I don't think they're going to be putting pressure on Bonner in the regular season to be carrying their offense scoring wise. I just don't think that's what this piece is for. She's a really good defender on the wing. She has tons of experience in the postseason. I don't think there's a reason to press her 32 minutes a game during this regular season at the age that she's at right now. With all these other weapons right now, I didn't even mention Sophie Cunningham off the bench. It's not like we don't even know if DeWanna Bonner's going to start. Like she theoretically could be coming off the bench to save her legs for the postseason, because this Fever team has improved enough that if they're smart, they are thinking about the postseason now. You have to get there first, and this is a great W league, and you don't want to be having to face one of those top teams in the first round. But I think that they'll at least be looking with a little bit of an eye. But even if they aren't, this is a pretty high number to get to. She's 37 years old. I'd be shocked if she's at 30 minutes a game, to be honest. But even if she is, I think with all the other players soaking up usage on the Fever, I think she's still going to go under this anyway. So that Bonner under 15.1 points per game is my last one. Do you have, before we go on to our next little section here, Calvin, do you have any thoughts on Bonner and the Fever as a whole, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very high on the Fever. You and I have talked about this quite a bit, but I do think that the Fever really won the offseason with what they did, including bringing in DeWanna Bonner and Sophie Cunningham and players like that. And to your point, I do think Bonner's going to get the start, if nothing else, just as like she's a legend. She's playing for her coach in Connecticut now type of like ceremonial start. But I could easily see a scenario where she's like 6th on the team in minutes per game. Yeah. Like she's a starter playing 23 and Sophie is off the bench playing 27, like that type of thing. Yeah. Which is all we need. We don't care whether she starts or not. We care how many minutes she plays for that bet. And I absolutely agree with you that her minutes are not going to be high enough. Her usage is not going to be high enough. And especially when you look at the end of last season, when the Sun brought in Marina Mabry, and DeWanna Bonner's, her scoring kind of plummeted, which maybe also was because she's 37 and at the end of a season, you're starting to feel it on those legs. But she does feel a little bit ageless. I think it was more of the usage thing with Marina Mabry. And now she's going to have a lot higher scoring guards around her than just Marina Mabry when you talk about K. Mitch, Caitlin Clark, things like that. So fully with you. Absolutely love that play.
Wait, Calvin, we're later in the show going to talk about a little head-to-head we have. Let's lock in officially our head-to-head that we've been kicking around on the Fever. I'm ready for it. I said to you earlier in the postseason, in the offseason, I need to wait. I need to see how the offseason shook out. What number did we set on? What the debate we were having, I'll set the scene for people, is Indiana Fever defensive rating, because Calvin is a big believer that Steph White coming to town, DeWanna Bonner and Tosh Howard, plus another year of growth for Caitlin and Aaliyah Boston. This can be did we set the number at 6.5, like basically a top half of the league defense?
Yeah, that's where I set the median number. Yeah, and I think you had the number a little bit lower than that.
I was trying to push you. I was negotiating. I'll lock in here on the pod. We can say officially, I will say that the Fever defensive rating will be worse than 6th, which I guess is, now we have 13 teams. So 7th is like kind of right in that exact middle. So I'll say they are middle or worse. And you're saying 6th or better. Were there odds on this, or are we just locking in straight up?
I mean, I think it seems fair straight up. What do you think on 6.5?
Let's lock it in straight up. I like it a lot.
Yeah, let's do it. I am high on the Fever. Now, obviously, their defense isn't going to be anywhere close to their offense. I think the offense is going to be best in the league.
Yeah,
but I do think, like you said, DeWanna Bonner is a good defender. She still at this age, even you have switchable length with her and Natasha Howard, who admittedly is not the defensive player of the year, Natasha Howard, that we've seen earlier in her career, but I still think she's young enough to kind of have one of those like rejuvenation seasons when she goes to a situation that is worlds better than the situation she was in Dallas. And then you bring in Steph White, who is the biggest reason why I am high on it. It's just that she is an elite defensive mind. You look at what she did with the Connecticut Sun in their defense the last couple seasons. I just think that if she has even like average pieces to work with, like she doesn't need like a defensive player of the year on the team to turn this into a top half defense with how good she is coaching that in her scheme, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at. I'm taking the under 6.5, if you want to say that. The better than
you're higher on them taking the under. It's like golf rules or whatever. I'm curious. I want to hear from folks if folks have thoughts on which side of this you think's going to win. I know we were talking to one buddy today who maybe is closer to the Jim side of things, it sounds like. So I want to hear from the people if they're closer to the Jim side or Calvin side, and we'll give you one other one in a little bit here to chime in on. So definitely feel free to reach out with your thoughts on that. In fact, I'll use that. We'll transition into this next segment I have for us. With Dano in the first one, we did 2 up and 2 down, and we kind of just talked through, 2 teams we were higher on than the market, 2 teams we were lower on the market. Well, guess what? Now we have regular season win totals, and so I'm going to be doing, full in-depth stuff when I do these conference previews. We're going to be going team by team. I'll give a either a bet or a lean on all those regular season win totals, but these things move pretty fast. They haven't been out all that long, and they're already moving around. So I had to get Calvin on in part to talk through some of this. So we're each going to give 1 over and 1 under for regular season win totals that we really like right now. Let's lead with the unders, because that's where we'll have another little heads up here, Calvin. It's very rare that you and I don't see eye to eye. So I feel like when on those rare occasions that we are like even a little bit off from each other, it's fun to, lock in those head-to-head matchups as a little, hopefully 2 of the people who are more locked into this out there kind of testing the metal against each other. So let's lead with the unders. Let's have you go first. Actually, I have me first on the dock. Let's have you go first, then I'll follow up, and we can kind of tease our other head-to-head here.
Yeah, so I love the Valkyries under. It was 15.5 with plus money on the under when it opened, which was an absolutely asinine number.
It really was. FanDuel opened up at 10.5 today, which is closer to I think where we would have it. But
and last I saw was at 9.5.
So it's taking under even still. Wow.
It's still taking money to the under. I have seen at least within the last couple hours that we've hopped on here, still some like 11.5s and 12.5s around at ESPN and DraftKings. So obviously if you have access to different books, make sure you're shopping around. But like this being a double-digit number is ridiculous. I think even with the extra 4 games, 44 games now. And granted, I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more. You have been, in DMs talking me up on the depth of the Valkyries, which by expansion team standards, I will admit is very good. I mean,
Yeah.
the more I look at it, I'm impressed with the depth that they were able to come up with for a team that has all the limitations of an expansion team. But that being said, when Tip Hayes is your best player, I love Tip Hayes. In 2025, you're not winning 13 games. It's just not happening. And I think like the fact, I mean, even when if you look at some of those lower lines, 11 and a half, 10 and a half now, like you're just not getting there, and nor do they particularly want to. I think,
Yeah.
which is a key in this as well. And they shouldn't want to. I think a lot of teams, for some inexplicable reason, around the WNBA are trying really hard to be way better than they should be, I think.
Cough,
And
Chicago, cough.
yeah, cough. Yeah, the sky. What are we doing? Valkyries are not in that boat at all. All indications are that they are very aware of the benefit of being bad for at least 1, maybe 2 years, adding like a Lauren Betts or Olivia Miles or a Juju or someone like that. So we'll see. We'll see how the Valkyries are looking in a few years. I'm excited for it, but for this year, it's not happening. It's this line in like the low to mid double digits is it's not happening for them, and I'm fully on board with this under here.
Yeah, it's funny. I try to be a little coy on the podcast at times, and Dano and I were kind of talking through what we thought the regular season win total would be for the Valkyries last episode, and we said like I think we said like 6 or 7. We said a really
Yeah.
low number, certainly in single digits. And then, of course, it came out at 15 and a half. I had people messaging me like, this seems like a good under. I was like, yeah, I'm going to try and hold on to the podcast to see if we can give it out on the pod. But it's a very good number. So, it's already on the move, but I'm with you. Certainly the 12 and a half. Down around like 9 and a half, I'd start to kind of, that's around where I would probably set it myself. I do really like the depth of this team. And it's in part why I'm going to say I'll give our bet right now. So our other little head to head is the Valkyries and the Sun. So I think the Sun have the worst roster in the WNBA. So I'll talk through the bet first, and then we'll talk the head to head at the end, because mine is under the Sun under 14 and a half. You can still, at least when I brought this up like an hour ago, these are moving fast now that all the books have them out. You could get under 14 and a half at plus money at DraftKings. Again, this I think is the worst roster in the WNBA, even with an expansion team that was only able to pick from basically the dregs of every team. But this is a team. So Marina Mabry is a great player, and she's definitely the best player of these two teams, the Valkyries and the Sun. But after that, it gets real. It falls off a cliff. You got Tina Charles, who she's not a winning player. I really, respect the career she has put together in a lot of ways, but she has never really she's like, I get my numbers and I'm good. I get my numbers. I get my cash my checks. I played for a long time. I have a really productive career, but just not really a winning player. Then it goes down to I'm vaguely intrigued by Olivia Nelson-Ododa and JC Sheldon. Maybe I used to love Diamond Nishio. She used to be one of my favorite players in the league. Even then, she wasn't super efficient, but I really liked her. And then the efficiency, just fully dropped off, and she dealt with a lot of injuries, which is totally something out of her control. But she's not really, a contributing winning player at this point. Then you're down to maybe, I think maybe Anissa Morrow, a rookie, is probably like their second or third best player. I know you're pretty high on Morrow, which maybe is part of why you don't mind being on the Sun side, being like the Sun have the better roster than the Valkyries, but I think this team will also be pretty content with losing. I really do think we're going to see a league where 11 or 12 teams are competing to get to the postseason. And I think Washington's kind of a pivot team. I think, you and I are kind of torn on, which direction they go. I think if they get a couple early injuries, they may very well be like, all right, let's get some picks. I think those 3 teams could really be fine. We are content, saving some wins for future seasons. And I think that ties into, I think Marina Mabry, she has already asked out. Now they didn't give her the trade that she wanted just yet, but I could easily see her being traded midseason, which would then make this, I think, far and away the worst roster in the WNBA. Now, maybe you could, I think the counter argument to this is, are they keeping Mabry because they somehow think that they can be competing for a postseason spot, which is insane? So are they going to try really hard? I think it's going to become abundantly clear very fast that they have a really bad team, and they're going to catch a lot of L's early on. the head-to-head that we had talked about, again, we did it with a spread again, because the Sun, you can get 14.5 for the Sun versus, like 12.5 for the Valkyries. Was it 4.5 or 3.5 that we were talking about for the little spread differential on the win totals here between these two?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that the line should be around there, around like a true line should be around like 4, maybe like 3.5 or 4.
How about this? Do we want to we won't make it official on the pod. We can say on opening night, whatever their two like win totals at bookmaker are, like the sharpest book out there, whatever the gap is, that's the gap that will make the differential. And,
I like that.
I'll be on the Sun, or I'll be on the Valks, you be on the Sun.
I like that.
Okay, perfect. So that's our fill it again. Give your thoughts on that as well. Are you team Valks? Are you team Sun plus a couple wins or whatever? I'm curious what folks think about that. I think I am probably a little bit higher on Valks than some, but I was listening to another betting pod out there. They were taking the over 50.5 for Valkyries. I think that's a little bit crazy.
Wow.
I think that's way too high on the Valkyries, but I'm intrigued. I think it's a fun little roster. I think the scariest thing with the Valks is I think they really want to lose. Like I think they for sure want to lose. The Sun should want to lose. The Valks have basically made it clear, with their pick this year, they're kind of like, listen, we want to win a title in a few years. The way you do that is you're really bad. You get a couple really good picks. You get a Juju Watkins, and you have all these really good pieces around her. And then Mr. Two Timelines out there. He can just be one timeline for the Valkyries, and it's potentially a really good one with some young pieces. So that's our first one for the unders. Let's talk through a team you're higher on.
Well, first we should talk about the other little bet that we between those two teams that we got to give out on FanDuel here.
Oh yeah, you have another bet. Oh, you're right. I forgot about this piece of it as well. Yeah. This is a fun market that I don't think we've had before. I think it's because we have an expansion team. It's a cool market. Talk about the market a little bit, and then give your bet.
Yeah, that's my bet. I think I put it in the wrong spot on the outline here, but this actually in some respects goes against like everything that I am on in terms of the bet that we just talked about, with me being on the Sun minus whatever against the Valkyries. And also as a side note on that, if they trade Marina Mabrey, I'm gonna be wrong. I like if that happens, fully with you that their roster is the worst in the league, and they are gonna end up worse than the Valkyries. So very much banking my position on Marina Mabrey.
Which they're stubborn, and they have not shown like great big picture abilities in the past. So like I wouldn't be shocked if she makes it through the whole season. The bet I'm making like has that as like an outcome, but not like the main outcome.
Exactly. And also I'm high on Anissa Morrow, like you said. I think she could be a really intriguing rookie with her motor and rebounding ability. But to this bet, so we have odds on the Valkyries when they will get their first win in franchise history.
Yeah.
And their schedule is interesting because their first 3 games, they start out the opening week with a little homestand against like beatable opponents. And then after that, it just gets brutal. They have like road games against all the championship contenders for like a month straight. And then they go back home and they play the Sun on June 22nd. And even though I am slightly higher on the Sun than I am on the Valkyries, I think if the Valkyries make it through that first week 0-3 against those 3 opponents that I think they very well may get a win out of, I think they very well may end up 1-2, and this bet is over almost before it even starts. But if they don't, if they go 0-3, I absolutely love plus 1900 for them to get their first win against the Sun at home on June 22nd. I think it's value basically down to like plus 1500 right now. But I think if they start 0-3, you're going to be looking at that being like plus 400 or something. Like it's going to be so vastly different than what it is now.
Value,
yeah, you're going to be sitting on an amazing ticket if you can get out unscathed for that first week. But it's a little bit of a schedule spot too. They're going to be on a homestand, like I said, and the Sun are going to be coming off of they're going to be on the back end of a road trip where they will have played 2 days prior across the country. The Valkyries are going to be on an extra day of rest from them. So I think it's one of those spots where like the Valkyries, obviously they want to lose. And I'd be fairly surprised if they get a win in that. This is their 13th game, by the way, in that 4 through 12 stretch, their 4th game through 12th game. I think are all like, I don't want to say automatic losses, but like pretty close.
It's a murderer's row, yeah.
It's murderer's row. And if they do start out 0-12, this is gonna be one of those games where they're like, all right, like it's okay for us to win one game. Like we're still gonna get a good pick. Like, we're at home against a team, like they might actually be favored in the game because they're at home and because of the rest and travel spot. Like it's gonna be one of those where like, well, like we got to give our fans something, right?
And like if we don't get this one, like when are we getting one?
Right, exactly. It's gonna be like we just because we want to lose doesn't mean we want to go 0-44, right? Like we got to get one at some point. And I think if you get out of that first week 0-3, and then those losses are gonna start to pile up, then you're gonna see them like actually try at least for that game, and then maybe start tanking again the next day. But so I think plus 1900 is a fun sprinkle there and a long shot. And it's also a little bit of like a hedge to my bet for the Sun to win more games, or 2 more games, 3 more games, or whatever.
I love this bet because it's a great cap and a great breakdown from you, and also because it would be like a direct like +1 -1 towards our ledger. So I'm all about it. I'm all about that double down action.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to who we are higher on now. Do you want to go first here with your team that you would like the win total over on?
Yeah, I'm going with the Lynx. It opened at 26.5. I think most places are 27.5 or 28.5 now. I'd take this in the 20s. I think they get to 30. I think in general we're kind of just sensing a theme where we're taking unders on some of those bad teams. Now we're taking it over on a good team. And the biggest thing with the Lynx, I think, is just they're gonna be pissed off. And I know it sounds like one of those like cliche
like stock radio.
Yeah, like is there actually anything to this? I don't know, but I genuinely think like not just that they lost the finals, but the way that they lost. Like you could argue, officiating,
you could
like overtime of Game 5, all of these different things, and the fact that they have like that entire core back. And yes, the Lynx franchise has won a lot of championships, and Cheryl Reeve has won a lot of championships, but this core of players has not. And that almost sounds counterintuitive, like, oh, don't you want teams with championship experience? But I think teams, and you could apply this to a lot of sports too. You could look at the NBA right now. I think teams that got really close and have obviously the talent to do it. I mean, the Lynx were seconds away, right? So they clearly have the talent to do it, but didn't actually get there. Like, I think those teams are the teams you want to bet on coming into a season, just because those teams are like the perfect blend of talent and motivation.
Yeah.
Not that teams like who already won a championship start tanking and like don't care, but I think there is something to like when you haven't gotten that first one yet.
We see it time and time again.
Yeah, you got a chip on your shoulder. You got something to prove, right? Like you got to get at least one ring. And that's what this core is after this season. It's a little bit of like a revenge tour type of thing, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm very high on them this season, and I see what you're writing right now.
Oh, these are my notes, so I don't forget to myself, because I've got thoughts on the Lynx for sure.
You are correct on the shooting regression both ways. They had some pretty extreme shooting. Obviously, they have good shooters, but offensively and then defensively, especially, where it probably will regress. But they also made some good moves. They brought in Carly Samuelson. I think she's a really good pickup for them off the bench, basically like Bridget Carlton off the bench in some respects. And I'm this team. When you look at Nafisa Collier being MVP candidate, one of the leaders for MVP, maybe,
yeah.
And then all the shooting and talent around them, like they're still perfectly equipped, I think, to be a contender. And honestly, they're my pick to win the championship this year. Yeah. So although I think there's so much parity, it's very close at the top. But when you're a team of that level at 27.5, that's low for me.
No, I agree. It's funny. You saw my little notes to myself there on things I wanted to remember. I was actually writing shooting regression because I think if you take the other side of this, if you want to be on the Lynx under, you'd say two things. You'd say that the shooting on both sides of the ball was unsustainable. They hit threes at a league best number by like a decent margin and gave up the lowest by a decent margin. Like both of those theoretically should regress to the mean. The other thing you would say is that they had a big jump in terms of win total last season, and that often those teams will regress to the mean a little bit. I actually think there are counters to both of those. I do think that when you have who I think is the best coach in the league in Cheryl Reeve, now Becky Hammond's right up there as well, but Cheryl Reeve, I think the scheme that she has created with the roster she has, I think really, I wouldn't say that they will match the numbers from last season because those were incredibly good, but I would project them for a top 2 to 3 3-point percentage team on offense and on defense. I think that if you are baking in full regression, you're actually over baking in something. And again, the win total jump, we saw there was a reason why like the links over last year was the like comical lock of all comical locks. They were getting Nafisa Collier back with a roster that fit perfectly around her. And there, you had a comment about how we're just betting unders on the worst teams and overs on the best teams. And if you look at the men's side, that's actually often a very bad approach. Usually you do want to regress and you want to take the overs for the bad teams and the unders for the good teams, because over the stretch of a long season, it all mushes together. Well, on the women's side, we've talked about this in the past. You see it at the college level. You see it to a degree at the WNBA level in terms of like game spreads. Often what looks like, really square bet, LSU minus 34.5, the books actually over regress those at times. And I think it's because they're, it's awesome. We're building up the depth, the pool of talent on the women's side, but it doesn't have the history and the depth of talent quite yet. We will get there eventually, but there is a margin of gap between the best and the worst in the league at this point still, especially with an expansion team. Expansion team's only going to flood the win total for those top teams in the league, and on the flip side, going to be hard to get those wins on the downside of it. So,
and Connecticut Sun too. Connecticut Sun as well. I not an expansion team, but I think between those two teams that we just talked about, they're under. Like the fact that we are so low on them and think that their win totals are going to be under 10, they're going to be in single digits. Like that is a lot of wins to go around for the rest of the league. Like even if they both get to 10 and 34 for both of those teams, that's 48 games under 500 for two teams. That means the entire rest of the league, the other 11 teams collectively, are going to be 48 games over 500 in that scenario. Probably more like 50 games over 500. Those wins have to go somewhere.
I think so one of those I think one of those teams in the tier of like Dallas, Washington, LA, I think one of them is going to slip and join that tier as well. And we're going to have three really bad teams. I'm just not 100% sure which team it is yet, but I agree there's going to be a lot of teams. When I looked at this, I think it's in part because of those Sun and Valkyrie unders that were so off in our minds. I texted you, I was like, do they not realize that there's 44 games this season? Because a lot of the win totals for those top teams felt like 2 wins low. Now, a lot of those have come up. Liberty came up. Aces came up. And one team that hasn't come up, I'm actually going to use this to transition to my over. I don't understand this one. This to me is the worst win total on the board. It's the Seattle Storm over 20.5. It's minus 130 on DraftKings. I think this team is going to finish closer to 30 wins than 20. We get 44 games this season. They were the Pythagorean record of 27 and 13 win team last season. That would translate to 29 or 30 wins. Now the case against it would be they lost Jewel Lloyd. Jewel Lloyd was, locker room aside, which I actually don't think you should decide. I think that the vibes to a team definitely matter, and in the postseason I think it really kind of held them back. She just wasn't a great on the court player for them last season, and it's been a couple years since she's been the really great productive Jewel Lloyd that was on those winning Seattle Storm teams. They now have a full season of Gabby Williams. If I were creating the Seattle Storm for 2025, I would rather have a full season of Gabby Williams than a full season of Jewel Lloyd with this team as constructed. Skylar Diggins-Smith and Nneka Ogwumike, even though they are veteran players who probably aren't going to be playing for another decade, they had 2 of their best seasons from like an advanced statistical side of things last season. It was Jewel who kind of held them back a little bit. And this is not shaded Jewel. It wasn't a great situation for her. The stories out there aren't great look for the Storm in general. But I do think that this team is way too good to being priced as an under 500 team. Remember, we have 44 games. You can go 21 and 23 and hit this over. That kind of seems unfathomable to me. To me, this is if I had to set this line, I would have it around like 27.5. Maybe take away a win or two from that, the pace they were on last season. The rest of the league got better, but you also have the expansion team. You also have the Sun dropping off a lot. This Storm team, to me, listen, I don't want to give away too much. There are a lot of ways I'm going to be betting them. We'll put it that way. There are a lot of markets where they are really, really undervalued to me right now. So I'm going to be all over them. Grab them to make the playoffs when that opened at a shorter number. It has bumped up now, but for some reason the win total hasn't seemed to move in connection with it. So this is absolutely my favorite win total. This is my favorite bet that I've given out on the pod so far. I've got one in the awards market that I really, really like, but this Storm over 20.5 seems like just far too low. The only thing I'll say, and I'll let you hop in with your thoughts on it after, there are Eurobasket and AFCON, but there are a few international tournaments this season where players will miss some time, and the Storm do have a few players who will miss time because of that. But I think a lot of teams are going to have that. In fact, if you go down the line, a lot of the best teams have some good players on that. So I think the Storm will be able to survive that. And this number is just far, far too low for a team that I think is going to be in the top tier, maybe the second tier, maybe that kind of like tier with the Mercury, but certainly not in the tier where they're getting priced right now, either in the win total market or the overall title conversation odds wise.
100% with you. I mean, this line is stupid. It's under 500 doesn't make any sense for them. It's flat out stupid. You are correct if you were going to play devil's advocate on this, that so there's Eurobasket, which is going to take away Gabby Williams. This is in late June for a few weeks, as well as Dominique Malunga. And also, I don't really know what the situation is here fully, but it sounds like Malunga has not been able to come over yet with visa issues or something like that. So I don't know if she'll be there for the start of the season, or I hope she is. But even aside from that, I mean, going back to Unrivaled, Skylar Diggins looked outstanding in Unrivaled, and I think that I think that's going to be a theme this year. This was the first year of Unrivaled, so this is like the first year that we're going to get to see how, if at all, that sort of translates into the W and whether success there kind of carries over. But we have seen that at other levels. We've seen it with overseas basketball. We've seen it with Athletes Unlimited, where players who go in these leagues that are over the W off season and during kind of the winter basketball season have success, and that does tend to carry over. So I do think Unrivaled will do that, either for Chelsea Gray, who we talked about earlier, for some other players, and for Skylar. I think, even at 34 or 35, she looks fantastic, in amazing shape, and I think she's going to be incredible for them this year. They did lose Jordan Horston to injury, unfortunately, just in terms of depth, but they also brought in Alicia Clark, who is also on the older side, but I think still has something to give in terms of their depth. So I think this roster is easily an above 500 roster, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, the only explanation is that the sports books think Jewel Lloyd is like a top 5 player in the league. So I'm with you.
Yeah, I think that we will wrap up there. We've got some more podcasts upcoming. I mentioned awards and stat leaders with Dano. Will be your next episode in your feed. And then I'm going to do East and West previews with a couple special guests. Not going to be Calvin. We're going to bring Calvin back. I think even one more time, maybe before the regular season, but certainly a bunch this season. He'll be on the pod. But we got a couple other guests. Going to try and rotate through some friends here. But that's it for this episode. Hopefully we got you a ton of actionable bets. The first one was kind of, first episode of the season was kind of zoomed out. We tried to tease a few bets here and there. Now we got more markets, so we figured we would deliver the bets, and Calvin, deliver you did. I think we got plenty of good stuff in there. So thanks for coming on, Calvin. Always great chatting.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me.
For sure. And make sure you download the Action Network app. I'm going to be posting these in there. I'm going to usually try and let the podcast drop, and I'm going to post whatever is still playable. That's how I'm going to kind of approach it this year. Podcast first, really want folks to come and tune in, but I also understand folks can't always get there. So once the podcast's out and be posting the plays, they're still there. But the best numbers are probably going to be from the podcast. So you'll make sure you want to be listening, but download the app as well and get all the plays from me. Calvin's in there as well. Lots of other good folks. As for buckets, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. We're over there as well if you want the video side of it. Calvin's got the sweet background with the oh my god, now I'm blanking. The Illinois State.
Illinois State.
I was like,
let's go, baby.
State? Yeah, the Redbirds, of course. Got the full red backdrop there. So That's all for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope we got you some good bets, and let's get buckets.